Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World Cyber Games 2006 Grand Final in Monza, Italy. I am Marcus DJ Wee Graham, and of course we've got the one, the only, StarCraft extraordinaire, ITG Tasteless, aka also known as in Korea, the Storm Observer. Tasteless, what's up today?
What's going on, Marcus? Before I even begin to say anything, I'd also like to put that it is an honor right now to be casting with an individual such as yourself.
Well, you know what? All of the folks on Team Liquid are going to go, why is DJ Wee casting, StarCraft? Why did they just bring back Whack? They were going to put that up. Well, I'll just let you guys know that they actually wanted to put a pretty face on stage because you are No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm here to just sort of assist Tasteless. I want to help out the newbies that maybe have never seen this game, and I want to be the one to ask the right questions to you, the StarCraft expert here at the World Cyber Games 2006 Grand Final.
It's no problem, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited to see these two players play. We got Lamar versus iloveOov, the Bulgarian Terran versus the Monster Terran from Korea.
And we are going to introduce these players in just a moment. We'll get a chance to check them out in the pods. But let's talk a little bit about the event. Actually, let's see what we got coming up today. We've got Young Sung Choi, iloveOov from Korea, and Ivan Velkov, Lamar or Lamer from Bulgaria. And then also coming up shortly thereafter, we've got Christoph Semke, Mondragon from Germany, and Song Wook Jun, Midas from Korea. Tasteless, obviously, even as a StarCraft newbie, at least three of these names I'm very familiar with, so everyone should be excited for these matchups today.
If I had to pick the matches myself to cast, these are the ones I would have chosen. And we got many more to come up here, and I'm really looking forward to it. My nipples are very hard right now, Marcus, and I'm not sure if it's because it's so cold out here or because I'm so excited to see this game get started.
It's definitely cold. We can actually see our own breath as we sit here on the F1 track in Monza, Italy, believe it or not. It's such a change. Last year we were in Singapore. Next year we're going to be in Seattle, but this year we're taking a pit stop in Monza, Italy. And let's meet our first set of players here for the StarCraft Brood War. Match number one. This is number one. We've got Young Sung Choi. He took WCG 2006 Korea first. And now, Tasteless, tell me a little bit about the qualifiers in Korea. I imagine for StarCraft they must be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Marcus. A lot of people say that the qualifiers in Korea, are harder than the world qualifiers afterwards.
Wow.
And Oov did get first. July Zerg and Midas shortly after him. Very tough games down there. Oov is known for having the best macro in the world. His understanding of the economics is just phenomenal.
It's second to none. And we've also got Lamar Terran. He commented before the game that, he's been playing a lot of poker, not so much StarCraft. He thinks this is going to be an easy game for iloveOov, but we're going to find out. It's Ivan Velkov. He was in WCG 2006 Bulgaria, where he took second. And you can see he's just out here having fun. And, for a lot of these players, they may not go through, they may not know they're going to go through, but they're still going to give it their best, and they're here to have fun. And that's why we're here too, Tasteless, to bring the fun and excitement of the World Cyber Games 2006 Grand Finals to the folks at home.
You're absolutely right, Marcus. I'm really excited to see how this game's going to turn out, because although Lamer is a very modest player, he's also a very good one. He got top 8 last year, and I'm really excited to see how much of a fight he will put up against iloveOov.
All right, well, let's take a look at the map for map number one. Paranoid Android. It wasn't up there for very long, but about the only thing I know about this map is that even though the starting locations are right next to one another, they actually have to go across a couple of bridges to get there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this map is a very interesting one, and I'm going to talk about it in just a little bit here because it looks like the game is actually going to start. I just got the signal for this game to get going, but I'll get into that in just a moment. It looks like the games are going to get started pretty soon here. Before it starts, I guess, since it hasn't started yet, I will talk a little bit about this map. There's a river dividing it diagonally, very close positions, hence the name Paranoid Android. A small bridge and a large bridge and one landmass at the very bottom left corner. This map is a very turtle-intensive map, and in a matchup like Terran versus Terran, we're going to see a lot of that, and I'm really expecting a long game here.
All right, well, the game's about to begin. All right, well, we've got a mirror match for this one. Starting things off, Terran versus Terran. iloveOov versus Lamar up here on stage, live from Monza, Italy. The World Cyber Games 2006 Grand Finals. Tasteless, it's my pleasure to be here on stage, casting StarCraft with the Storm Observer. And just for all the folks out there, I can guarantee you I'm going to keep my mouth shut and only ask the questions that need be asked while the master takes the microphone and takes it away. Once again, iloveOov versus Lamar. And you told me a little something about his name, that the OOV is actually the eyes and the V is the victory sign.
Yes, that's right. It's the OOV, it's not a word. You don't say I love Oov. That doesn't mean anything. The OOV is in fact a face, the two eyes, and the V is supposed to be like a hand holding up two fingers symbolizing victory. So I think what the name essentially means is that I love victory.
And we're going to find out if he really does love victory. Now, one other thing as we get started here, in the opening moments of this game, you were saying that iloveOov is actually an apprentice to probably one of the most famous StarCraft players in the world ever.
He is the apprentice to the Jesus of StarCraft himself, Slayer's Boxer, who's just now had to retire his professional gaming career, at least temporarily, to join the Korean military.
Of course, they're going to have him, microing missiles to hit North Korea. All right, anyway, let's get this game.
Yes, North Korea will be in trouble with a strategic brain such as
Watch
Boxer.
out, they got the best military strategist that you could possibly imagine.
All right, now I believe we have iloveOov at the top, although I'm not absolutely sure they brought up the names of the players so briefly. It's actually not clear right now.
All right, there you go, T1 and T2. So iloveOov at the 1 o'clock position, and of course Lamar just south of him, southeast of him.
Now, to bring up a very important point about this map, there's been a little bit of a problem people have kind of discovered since they've been playing this game, is that this map is not quite balanced. The north spot actually mines 50% quicker than the right spot. But going right to another thing I'm noticing that's very instant is that iloveOov is now building his barracks outside of the ramp of Lamar's base.
Now, tell me what he could do with that barracks. I mean, it could possibly be raised up, used for scouting, checking out the base, but he's probably not going to pump out a lot of Marines out of there, right?
That's absolutely right. Marines are not a very strong unit to use in Terran versus Terran because the mechanical units crush the Marines so quickly. However, in this case, when you see a barracks located this closely outside the base, we can assume that he will probably rush with perhaps 1, 2, or 3 Marines early in an attempt to kill a few SCVs, get ahead of his opponent's economy, and then tech proceedingly.
All right, well, we'll have to see what happens right here as the barracks is up. It has not lifted yet. But the mining thing, I remember you mentioning something about that at the Blizzard Worldwide Invitational, where Paranoid Android was used as well as BlizzCon. And how much of I mean, it's random position when you go in, but how much can that actually change the game?
Well, it's not so much that there's no way that you can't win if you're in the spot that mines closer. However, it does mean that will probably affect your early strategies. Perhaps you'll be more likely to rush. Oov is rushing right now with his first Marine because he knows that his opponent probably got his barracks out slightly slower than he could have. So we see the Marine now coming in here, microing. Every second that these SCVs are not mining, he will be losing money, and you can see microing very carefully. Actually, this is going to be a very difficult thing for Lamar to deal with, especially with a player like iloveOov, whose his micro is just impeccable. The Marines now backing up, SCVs chasing them. He has to be very careful not to lose these. Remember, these SCVs are not mining; they are not getting
they're
minerals.
just standing there. Basically, it's essentially harassment.
Absolutely. Perfect word choice. He's harassing his opponent in an attempt to slowly outgrow him, to out-macro him later on.
Now, I see that a Marine has come out now for Lamar. Is there any chance that Marine is he's going to be able to pump out Marines at the same rate in order to be able to take this threat out?
Well, judging from what I'm seeing right now, I'm seeing a barracks, a bunker getting thrown up. This is going to be an attempt to hold off these Marines, and he has to be very careful. He only has 2. Lamar only has 2, Oov only has 2 as well. And the factory almost getting up. Very careful, Oov. Now he has pulled out, and remember, although this attack was held off, this is only a ploy to force his opponent to waste 100 minerals on that bunker. His factory will be out later, and as we can see here, Lamar is not mining gas.
And in fact, just as you mentioned, how he basically forced his opponent to use the resources to build that barracks. As soon as it's built, he backed off. He's lifted his barracks and he's on his own way. So, would you say that was an effective rush?
I will absolutely say that was an effective rush. And as we can see now, we're going to see either a tank or a bike coming out here very soon from this factory. And Oov, or iloveOov, taking this moment to expand in another way to get ahead of his opponent. I see both barracks now scouting. Lamar, of course, getting his scout out a little bit later than OOV. OOV essentially ahead of his opponent in every way possible right now, Marcus.
All right, so is there anything that Lamar can do differently right now that can assist him in getting ahead of this game? I mean, to me, and what you've explained, it looks like iloveOov is already established himself as victor in terms of just crippling the economy, and we do see the first siege tank coming out as well.
Yeah, yes, there are things that Lamar or Lamar, however we say his name, that he can do right now, but it's not going to be easy, because let me tell you, iloveOov has certainly prepared for this. He's essentially, if this was like UFC fighting or something, he has his opponent in a clinch. It's like having him in a headlock right now. There's only so many maneuvers that he can do to get out of it, and all he has to do is play his cards right and keep him in this position that he wants him in.
Now, the siege tanks looks like it stopped just short of the bridge. I'm assuming that he's just basically using that in order to prevent his opponent from getting across to his side of the map.
Yes, excellent observation. The small bridge is almost always used early game rather than the larger one, which is farther away, and that's because time is so crucial, especially in scouting at this point in time. As we see, Lamar attempted to scout across that bridge and was deflected by those two tanks. That will affect Lamar's intelligence, and I'm not actually sure if Lamar is even aware that OOV, or iloveOov, has expanded yet.
Oh, I wasn't even aware of that, so... But, you know, that's why I'm the StarCraft newbie. That's why the Storm Observer is sitting right next to me and taking the helm on this.
I'm interested to see what Lamar's response to this will be. It looks like he's going to pump very heavily out of two factories. Judging by the amount of tanks that iloveOov has, if Lamar is paying attention correctly, he might be able to tell that his opponent did not have two factories. He instead only had one. And in which case, it may be possible to do some kind of a two-factory, maybe Goliath tank with a small amount of Marines rush. Oh, I see a Vulture bike here. We might do some sort of rush in an attempt to crush this early expansion. However, if I had to bet money on this game, I would not be betting on Lamar. I would be betting on iloveOov.
When we talked about this map beforehand, you said that this is really a battle of attrition and a battle of control, and we'd see a lot of siege, you know, being used. Now, in this particular case, the Vulture bike has now come out from Lamar's side. You didn't think that would really happen, or you thought it would be low. What could possible strategies for that one unit be?
The Vulture bike has many uses. Usually it's used for scouting and harassment, particularly in Terran vs. Terran. Sometimes players get mines. I'm not sure if we're going to see that.
They have to tech up to it, right?
That's right. They have to upgrade that ability. However, sometimes, as we can see, iloveOov got siege tanks early. Perhaps Lamar is going to get some mines, attempt to rush in here with tanks, plant mines in front of the siege of OOV's siege tanks, blowing them up and somehow crushing this expansion. And I see that he is now either preparing to attack or moving in for a closer and stronger position here.
Based off of the number of units that you actually see on screen, as far as offensive units, would you say that still the early attack on the economy of Lamar has been effective? It looks like some Goliaths have come. That looked like it was from iloveOov, actually. Is he just there? Is he using this to support, or maybe to prepare for any sort of air assault?
Well, it's a good question. Right now, although they have a fairly even amount of attacking units, iloveOov's economy is ahead right now, and we're going to see the aftermath of that coming up here very soon when he's able to throw up more factories. He's already got a starport up. I do not see if I cannot see right now if Lamar has a starport up yet, but what I can say is that Lamar has not been able to get adequate scouting right now. He is probably not even aware that iloveOov has expanded this early, and that's perhaps why we even saw that bike out there early for some kind of scouting purposes. Right now, both players sending their tanks to the lip of the river that divides Paranoid Android. This is where the turtling phase of the Terran versus Terran matchup kind of occurs. Now both players, iloveOov now expanding again. I have not gotten to see. It looks like SCVs are now getting transferred to Lamar's expansion. That is very bad. as his economy is going to be extremely behind right now. Right now, we're going to see both players throwing up a lot of factories, macroing intensely, and as I'm sure you know, macroing in StarCraft is a very difficult thing to do. You cannot miss a depot, you cannot forget to put up a factory, you cannot stop making SCVs, and you cannot stop upgrading. I'm seeing a dropship over here flying through the base of Lamar. I'm not sure if this is, yes, it's full of Goliaths. An excellent harassment unit dropping on this expansion. Spike's not doing a whole lot of anything right now. And Oov, being the baller he is, picks up those Goliaths and gets out of there quite quickly.
Very, very nice. Looked like he was able to save this. I don't think he lost anything there, but I'm pretty sure that at least 1 or 2 SCVs went down. Now, he had moved his economy from main pace down, but not the entire thing, right?
That's right. Well, it's very important that you have to maintain your tactical position in a matchup like Terran vs. Terran. Many times players will use a dropship in an attempt to pull your tanks, which are kind of holding your opponent's army at bay. They'll use that dropship to pull those tanks back, and when those tanks have been pulled back, the aggressive Terran will rush in there and then go for a stronger containment position. As we are now about to see, it looks like Oov, or iloveOov, has decided that at this moment he will attempt to gain greater position, if not crush his opponent entirely. Lamar, knowing he cannot lose these tanks right now, backs up quickly. Whoa, careful there. He did get those tanks damaged. That is very bad. That means those tanks will all probably die in one siege tank blast rather than 2. That will force him to stop his siege tank line right now. And if you're not careful, iloveOov, you might lose all those tanks. He did put himself in a bit of a bad position. As we can see, he kind of snuck up here on the left, and now those 2 siege tanks are kind of stuck. There is no real good position here. That was a bit of a blunder, Marcus, if I could say so, on iloveOov's part.
Just simply because he hit that 1 spider mine.
It was that one spider mine blew up, and I think that damaged 4 to 5 tanks. And that essentially, siege tanks die in 2 siege blasts.
Right.
If they're damaged, they die in 1. And when you're trying to push up on your opponent, that really causes difficulty. And here we see the siege line, the turtling line, the no man's land here right between them. Both players aggressively pushing. Lamar kind of turtled into a corner. However, a siege tank drop has occurred over into Oov's main base. There are going to be a lot of dead SCVs right now. Not migrating those tanks to the best of his ability. Perhaps he should have unsieged them there. I'm not sure. The pressure is on, however. But that will affect iloveOov's economy.
It looked like how many? Well, it looked like quite a few SCVs were actually taken out there.
What is important to notice, though, is that iloveOov already has an extra expansion, so he almost has this room to make that mistake,
right.
so to speak.
Okay.
And right now, we see that Lamar is not in the best position. Although iloveOov has been losing a little bit too many tanks here, it's okay. It's okay for him to do that because right now his economy is ahead, and it's ahead because of that excellent rush we saw earlier on his part. I see a dropship now flying through here over to what will be the, not anymore! Oh,
devastated.
A sad day for dropships, and a sad day for all those who are in it. As I don't even know if he really got to see that expansion. I wasn't quite following that as carefully as I should have been. I don't know if he got vision of that expansion when that happened. This is going to be a very uncomfortable position for Terran to be in. I used to play random several years ago, and I remember when I would play Terran versus Terran, you feel like you're in the dark. I mean, you don't know what's out there. You feel like you're getting closed in on. You feel like you can't breathe. This is a very, very difficult position to deal with, and Lamar definitely knows that the pressure is on right now. His countrymen are watching him right now. They're rooting. They're hoping that he can prove that the foreigners are not as bad as the rest of the world would like to say that they are. The pressure is on, and Oov, iloveOov, he knows that he must defend his Korean pride. He knows that Korea is the pinnacle of StarCraft. They have the best players out there, and he is here to prove that the Koreans will always have an edge on these foreigners.
So let me ask you a quick question about the turtle line, because it sort of looks like we're at the Civil War. It's North versus South. They're waiting on one side of the hill, one guy's on the other side of the hill, and they're all just going to fire and kill each other. But what will be the one thing that, like, tips that battle to one or the other scale?
Well, it's essentially going to be, while we're seeing this no man's land created here, what's going on behind all this, and as we can see from the mini-map, is that one player is growing and expanding and consuming more resources than the other.
And that's just quite frankly it.
That is what the game of StarCraft is. It is an economic-based RTS game, and right now, this whole position, which iloveOov has, will essentially allow him to have more resources. Possibly we can see battle cruisers or an extra amount of tanks, and there will be a point where one player, where push will come to shove, and one player will have to try to break this defense line or drop his opponent's main.
Now, and despite that we have this no man's land, like you said, the north versus south line set up here between Korea and Bulgaria, I noticed that Lamar actually has the north bridge. Is there any benefit to having that on Paranoid Android?
No, not really. Not right now. Mainly because all of iloveOov's units are rallied to the exit of the north bridge. Essentially, Lamar has no position whatsoever. If this was chess, iloveOov's pieces would all be in the middle, and he would have a much greater position on him. It's just, I'm not gonna lie, we're very slowly watching Lamar die right now, for lack of better words.
Scott, leprosy and just appendages are falling off as we speak.
And I think this is all due to that excellent rush we saw OOV do earlier. I see a drop now going into the main. This is perhaps a decoy in an attempt to pull the siege line, which he will be forced to do. Lamar is now forced to go back here and rescue this. Now Lamar will be able, iloveOov will be able to push this containment line forward, thus giving Lamar even worse position. We see iloveOov's face. He's thirsty for nerd blood right now, and I see Lamar in a bit of pain right now as being the excellent Terran player that he is, in spite of the fact that he's losing this. He knows exactly what is going on, Marcus, and he has no other choice but to respond in this way or lose the game.
So now that Lamar actually has had his line basically depleted, and in other words, it looks like we got a drop in the back. This is one of Lamar's expansions.
This is very bad right now. I saw a lot of SCVs get blown up, and the amount of siege tanks that are getting lost right now is very abundant, and it's going to be very, 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 very difficult. In fact, I would definitely say it's about 99% that iloveOov will win this game. I cannot comprehend any way in which the Bulgarian Terran can win this game right now, Marcus.
Well, I think if he builds an Ultra Storms and brings out a Warcraft 3 hero, something might happen. But we now see the siege. What's so funny, Tasteless? I was totally serious.
I love those Warcraft 3 jokes.
All right, so now some more siege are going to make their way across the south bridge and reinforce that line. Will we ever see a push here by iloveOov? I mean, at what point is he comfortable enough to just say, I'm just going to roll over him like a school bus over 20 kids?
I think this is the moment when we see that right now. iloveOov carefully deciding which tanks to siege right now, which tanks to move forward. And GG! That was definitely painful to watch. That was definitely an R-rated game we saw back there. It was pretty violent. It was pretty rough. And yes, iloveOov, I see a little smirk on his face right now. He played very well that game. And we're going to be getting on to the next game pretty soon here. That's a 1-0 victory. Now, although that game was very one-sided, I want to make it very clear that that does not mean that Lamar, whichever one it is, that does not mean that he cannot come back and win one of these other games. It was ultimately up to that excellent strategy by iloveOov to kind of turn that game in his favor.
Well, even in the history of the world, Cyber Games, Tasteless, I don't think any one player has ever been safe in the group stages. Even I can remember back to the World Cyber Games 2002, where Boxer was beaten by a Peru player, which actually seriously affected the group stages. He still went out of that, still went on to win versus Yellow in the finals, but I remember what a devastating loss that was. I also remember the Korean media absolutely swarming this one guy from Peru because he basically just studied his replays over and over. But interesting matchup there. Your final comments, your closing comments.
One thing I want to say really quickly, I made a mistake in assuming that was going to be a best of 3. These are best of 1 games, and I'm going to wrap this up right now. I just want to say that was an excellent game by iloveOov. That's going to help him get out of his group. We got Mondragon versus Midas coming up, and Marcus, this game coming up is going to be out of control. This is a pivotal game in WCG, and I can't wait to see it.
All right, we'll be right back.